Since the dawn of time, philosophers have argued about whether a keyboard and mouse is better than a standard controller for playing games. But, as is usually the case with made-up things that didn't happen, they were asking the wrong questions. What they should have been asking themselves is, can you beat Fallout New Vegas with a Guitar Hero controller? Before getting into the game proper, here's a brief explanation about how the Guitar Hero controller works with Fallout New Vegas. Well, I use this program here, called X360CE, which allows you to remap any controller, to work as an Xbox 360 controller to do various things. So, I'll run through what all the things on this controller do. The green button moves the right analog stick to the left. The red button acts as the right trigger. The yellow button moves the right analog stick to the right. The blue button acts as the A button. Orange, of course, clicks the left stick. What else would it do? This little flipper here moves forwards and backwards, depending on which way I push it. This little bar here doesn't do anything. It might if I put more effort into it, but I'm not. This is just a D-pad, it does D-pad things. This is the start button. And this, of course, is the B button. After getting up from Doc Mitchell's bed, my first task was to use the Vigor tester. Getting to it was easy. Activating it was a different beast altogether, because everything is a mess. The game says left trigger, but the left trigger doesn't exist, and it should be the A button to begin with. I reconfigured the game's controller settings to make it work, and almost started assigning special points. You can use the right trigger to move through the attributes. So I quit the game, momentarily remapped another button, and could finally start assigning points. My only objective is to beat the game. I put 10 points into luck to boost all skills, 10 in intelligence to get more skill points when leveling up, 7 in endurance to take some damage, and left most of the rest at 4. I then went over to the couch to try and sit down. I tried, but there was another problem. I can't actually look down or crouch. I spent a little while walking around the couch to see if there was some way I could reach it. There wasn't, and it dawned on me what a horrible idea this was. For the second time in 10 minutes, I quit the game and remapped some buttons. Because reloading wasn't something I was at all concerned about, I went ahead and made the orange button work overtime without any extra pay by making it click in the left stick and press X. I may or may not have had to look up the controls because I'm rather dim. It worked like a charm and was a waste of time because I found a spot where I could sit on the couch without crouching. We're off to a phenomenal start. The skills I chose were speech, for obvious reasons, medicine, so stim packs will be as effective as possible, and melee weapons, because I had a feeling that trying to aim a gun with a Guitar Hero controller would be a worthless endeavor. The traits I chose were skilled to boost all skills, and good-natured to provide yet another boost to speech and other non-violent skills. After 25 minutes, I was finally ready to leave Doc Mitchell's house. I took a few things from his house, the things that I could look at, like stim packs from his dead wife's chemistry set and a hat. Then I accidentally enabled hardcore mode, because of course I did. Once I'd made sure I didn't just have a heart attack, I disabled hardcore mode and went out into the wasteland for the first time. My first stop was Chet's general store to sell some things and buy some stuff. Here, I found yet another fun little side effect of using the Guitar Hero controller. The left trigger moves to your own inventory, but I still don't have a left trigger, nor do I have it mapped to any button on the guitar, so I can't sell anything. For the time being, I'm stuck with what I have at the start of the game. While I do a few things around Good Springs, let me explain something about the Guitar Hero controller. It sucks. There are a lot of things I can't do. I can't jump, I can't go into third person, I can't strafe left or right, I can't look up or down, I can't aim down the sights of a gun, I can't block attacks, I can't wait in a location, I can't pick up items, like when you fling them all over the place, I can't quick save or quick load, I can't use VATS, and those are just the basic control things. You already saw in Chet's shop another thing I can't do. It's just such a pain in the ass to play it this way. But I'm doing it anyway. Also, one more thing. About an hour into the game, I started recording a face cam to show that I'm using the controller. I had it pointed at both me and the screen for some reason for a little while, but the majority has a pretty standard face cam view, so you'll see it shift at some point. After all that explanation, I can put on my best frown and leave Good Springs in the dust. I followed the road for a while, discovered Gene skydiving, ignored a few powder gardeners, and found a few animals to kill. The great thing about melee weapons is that for the most part, you don't have to have your crosshair directly on your target. If you're looking in their direction and they're within range, you can hit them with your melee weapon. Next to the dead bodies I'd made, I found a doctor's bag, but I couldn't finagle myself enough to let me grab it. I continued heading northeast along the road, eventually switched to the much more adult choo-choo tracks, tried to pickpocket Snuffles, fixed his leg, and got the rundown from Tromp Lewis about the Deathclaws up ahead. I made a backup save, crouched, and began sneaking through Deathclaw territory. There was really no convenient way to get through this. Closing your eyes and power walking as fast as you can won't work because tripping over a pebble will slow you down enough to turn you into live bait. I stayed low to the ground, stopping every so often to take a look around to make sure I wasn't drawing the attention of any Deathclaws, pressed onward a bit, and let the cycle repeat. I eventually found myself atop Neil's shack, with the world looking oddly devoid of color for some reason. I'm still not sure entirely why it happened. A Deathclaw gave me a solid 2 spanks, I barely escaped with my life, took to the rocky cliffs to regain my composure, kept going, and was eventually out of the danger zone, at least for the moment, as I arrived at RepCon headquarters. I stopped for a moment and discovered yet another thing that doesn't work: fast travel. I can only move the crosshair left or right. By this point, I was numb to it all, and welcomed the extra pain. For the moment though, that's not an issue because I'm heading north to the Strip. Outside Camp McCarran, I witnessed a brief firefight between NCR and a few fiends. I thought it'd be nice to pick up a few new weapons from the dead fiends, but when you can't look down, you can't loot a dead body. I wasn't overly concerned with the fiend bodies. I was more concerned with the NCR soldiers. My plan was to kill an NCR soldier so I could wear their armor and disguise myself as a soldier to take the monorail inside the Strip. Once I realized that idea wasn't gonna work, I went east and killed the couple that runs the Grubbin Slug. Chasing after an opponent is a problem when your unequipped weapon button is the same as the button that makes you crouch. They both died though. I continued my journey to the north, discovered a few locations for some easy experience, and found the remains of a massacre. There was combat armor wrapped around a few dead bodies, and I got lucky that one of them was near a decline in the earth, allowing me to crouch, search his body, and get myself a suit of combat armor. Finally, something worked in my favor. I kept discovering locations until I got to North Vegas Square. There were quite a few people in there, and something about them bothered me. I think it was that they were alive. So I whipped out my grenade launcher and systematically annihilated everyone. Once they were no longer in the land of the living, I left and got back to work discovering locations around the Strip. I continued my campaign of carnage in Thorn. I then tried to kill someone with a shotgun, which was by no means easy. With my circular trip around the Strip almost complete, my last stop was Camp McCarran because I wanted to take one last shot at getting myself some NCR armor. The general idea is that I'd kill this trooper and his body would flop over onto the sandbags so that I'd be able to reach his body and snag the armor. Didn't really work out the way I'd hoped because it didn't work at all. Still carrying the stench of failure, I continued making my way back towards the Strip. The Red Roaches inside the Basin Creek building succumbed to my machete. I got into a brawl with a fiend and went inside Allied Technological offices to kill a bunch of giant ants. They've got a mean bite, but they go down in a few swings and yield a cool 25 experience per ant, making it an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. I found another ant in a destroyed barn, guarding the entrance to an ant mound. My blinding genius was on full display as I went down into that hole. There was a mega ant, an ant queen some might say, and I decided in my infinite wisdom that the only way to kill her was with throwing spears. Because when you're using a Guitar Hero controller, throwing spears are just about the most effective weapon at your disposal. She was a tough old beast, taking all the spears I had and still coming back for more. With no more spears, I threw caution to the wind and started to throw hands. She fell before me. I exited the ant mound and made a beeline for the Strip. I really wanted to sleep on this inviting piece of cardboard that was on the ground, but I couldn't figure out how to lay down, so I kept going until I got to the Strip's north gate. Things got real when the bouncer told me I wasn't getting in. I told him to chug nitric acid because I was going in whether he wanted me to or not. Gate's locked though. I knew what I did was wrong, so I let them kill me. There was no way I was going to be able to get my hands on the 2,000 caps needed to pass the credit check. But you can buy a fake passport for 500 from Mick and Ralph. The easiest job is working as a guard at the Silver Rush. All you have to do is stand in place, interact with a few people, be 1 point away from passing a speech check, and you've got yourself 200 caps. Spend a few days trekking out east to deliver a package to a suspicious gentleman, and you've got yourself 200 more caps. With my pockets rattling like crazy, I went to Mick and Ralph to see about getting a fake passport. That fun little problem where I can't look down reared its ugly head again because Mick is sitting down. He stood up after a few minutes, told me that I'd need 500 caps to get my fake passport, and I was 72 caps short. I'd exhausted all other options. This was the only way I was getting into the strip. So once again I quit the game, messed with the controls to let me sell a few things and buy a passport, then quit the game to reset my controls back to their previous horrible state. I'd gone through hell, but I finally arrived on the strip to exact revenge on Benny. Because I didn't want to risk having to kill Benny with my bare hands and his body landing on the ground, out of reach, I pulled out my grenade launcher and blew up the chairman loitering around the top's entrance. I had to be careful with Benny. I needed him to die on the stairs so I'd be able to ransack his corpse. It took some trial and error, but I bopped him good, took back what I decided was mine a few minutes ago, and went to get Yes Man's questline started because his is the easiest of the 4 options. Inside the Lucky 38, I went ahead and got my payment from Mr. House before I invaded his personal space by forcing my way into his basement. Once I took him out of the equation, I leveled up, raised medicine up to 99 since speech has been at 100 for a while, met up with Yes Man at the tops again to let him know that Mr. House's time was up and his time was now, and began the process of meeting the various factions spread across the Mojave. The White Gloves were up first because I despised them the most. I got a few good chops in on the greeter and covered my machete in his life. Then a bunch of bullies ganged up on me and killed me because aiming a plasma rifle in this nightmare is difficult. Round 2 saw me killing the greeter again, then go for Mortimer and finally Butters. For some reason, I used my shotgun on the lunatics that were crowding me, but with my work in the Ultralux done, I left and gambled with my life at Gamora. This one's easier, just refuse to hand over your weapons, fire a few shots, and you're done. The 3 remaining factions, the Brotherhood of Steel, Boomers, and Great Khans, are all significantly further away. I decided to go deal with the Boomers first because it's pretty much a straight shot to the northeast with not a lot in the way. I thought it'd be rough navigating through their bombardment, but it wasn't too bad. There are a few spots where you can go hide to avoid their artillery fire, and there's enough time between the rounds that you can get to cover even with a Guitar Hero controller. Just like with the Omertas at Gamora, all you really need to do is make contact with the Boomers, and then you can decide to ignore them. After I dealt with the Boomers, I set my sights on the Great Khans. There's a road to the west of the strip that runs south towards Red Rock Canyon, but fiends and other baddies infested in several locations, so I took to the Rocky Mountains to stay as safe as possible. It's surprisingly manageable to make your way up and over them without jumping, a little tedious, but not difficult. I avoided the Bighorners, arrived in Red Rock, spoke to Regis, and made a groundbreaking discovery that nearly gave me an aneurysm. I can't move the crosshairs on the world map up or down, but I can move it side to side, and it doesn't need to be directly on a location to let me fast travel to it. If you're close enough, it'll be the selected area, so I can make my way south via fast traveling by picking locations that are just slightly further south than my current location. This is why I discovered all those locations earlier. Actually, it wasn't. It was just dumb luck that I happened to do that in this video. My next objective was Hidden Valley to meet the Brotherhood of Steel. Getting there requires that I pass through Deathclaw territory again. The small upside is that this time I'm a bit more comfortable with the controls, allowing me to get to the bunker without any significant issues. The Brotherhood are freaks who make all newcomers strip naked to meet their leader, who then puts an explosive collar on them. How sick does a person have to be to put an explosive collar on someone before telling them to go somewhere to do something? I had a slight problem getting the Elder to speak because he was sitting. I got lucky and pickpocketed him. He caught me but didn't go red. I took advantage of the small window of time he gave me and spoke to him about my mission. I knew that the quest he gave me could be handled easily with a high speech skill, so I left and was told that my belongings were in a chest. That's an interesting development. All my stuff is on the floor in a box that I can't access. In any other playthrough, I might just ignore it and press forward, but not this one. I'm not going to the Hoover Dam without any armor, weapons, or stim packs while using a Guitar Hero controller. I backtracked a bit to just before I got abducted by the Brotherhood and left the bunker to continue my plan. The solution is actually rather simple. Get Veronica as a companion so I can enter the bunker with my clothes on and not have to have my belongings stuffed into a box. She's at 188 Trading Post, which is a short journey north along a road, and on my way there, a few things happened. The first was that I came across Neil's dead body, which I could actually loot. He had a rebar club that I used in place of my old machete. I discovered the El Dorado substation and entered a field of ants. These ants are all feisty, like they've got ants in their pants or something. Despite their ferocity, they don't stand a chance against my rebar club. Even the biggest of the ants goes down in a few swings. After a brief conversation, I gave the lonesome drifter a wallop. and because I was curious, I went to Boulder City to see if Jessup has any unique dialogue options, now that Benny's dead. He doesn't. I convinced him to give up the hostages and leave peacefully, and traveled to 188 Trading Post, where I got Veronica as my companion and used that fast travel technique I mentioned earlier to get to the bunker again. Veronica got me in, my interactions with the Brotherhood were complete, and I slowly fast traveled my way back up north to the Strip. With almost everything ready, I spoke to Yes Man again and had one last thing to do. As I left the Lucky 38, I noticed that Veronica was still standing in place. This is because companions automatically wait when you go to the penthouse. And guess what? I can't get her back. My limited inputs only allow me to choose 2 of the 8 options on the companion wheel, neither of which are the wait-follow toggle. Alone again, I headed back to El Dorado where I mopped the floor, with all the NCR soldiers guarding the exterior of the building, went inside, powered up the substation, returned to the Strip, the tops specifically since there's a bed in Benny's room that I can actually sleep in, slept, and returned to Yes Man again. The end is near. All that's left is to take part in the second battle of Hoover Dam. It's worth mentioning that I've taken the toughness perk twice in my travels, upping my base damage threshold to 6. I've also still got the combat armor, making the nerf darts fired by Centurions nothing to be concerned about. Inside the offices, I quickly dispatched of 2 armor-clad NCR soldiers, installed Yes Man's override chip, and started clearing out a few of the Legion and NCR soldiers inhabiting the offices as I made my way towards the power flipper. Also, Veronica is back, because of the way the game handles this endgame section. I pressed the switch, overrode the generators, and it did too good of a job because it crashed my game. It worked the second time though. The robot, Veronica, and I went back outside and began the final push towards the Legate's camp. I tried once to take on a group of Centurions, but they overwhelmed me pretty violently. Upon reloading a save, I accidentally smashed Veronica with my club. I successfully fought off a few Centurions and entered the Legate's camp. The first Praetorian went down after 2 swings. The next few tried to take advantage of me with their powerful fists, but it didn't work as well as they thought it would, and I was finally face to face with the Legate. Since the beginning, I've been planning for a diplomatic victory, and for once my plan worked out exactly as intended. General Oliver arrived. I told Yes Man to throw him off Hoover Dam, and I beat Fallout New Vegas with only a Guitar Hero controller. And that's going to do it for this video about whether or not you can beat Fallout New Vegas with a Guitar Hero controller. If you enjoyed the video or learned anything, leave a like. Leave a dislike if you didn't enjoy the video or didn't learn anything. Join the Mitten Squad Discord server through a link in the video description. Follow me on Twitter at Mitten Squad. My name is Frank of Mitten Squad. Have a wonderful day.